Hey guys, in this video we're going to be checking out the ARFUN 90, and I'm a little late to the party on the ARFUN reviews, and it's been out for a little while. Went out of stock and they came back in stock, and then Gearbest decided to send me one, and they've since updated the ARFUN 90 since the original reviews came out. Basically they updated the battery, because the original battery they came with this was a 300 milliamp hour pretty low C rating battery, and it would cause brownouts and ESC desyncs and death rolls. I did not experience any of those problems with this version that came to me. It came with this newer battery. It's a 500 milliamp hour. It says it's a 30C. I think it's a little bit higher than that. The battery seemed to have pretty good power. It didn't have any brownouts, pretty good flight times, and did not get any death rolls with this one. So apparently they've addressed that issue by basically getting a better battery in here. And I think that applies in general for a lot of these micros. If you're having brownouts and death rolls, find out what kind of batteries you've got, because they're probably not that good. And I'll have a video later on a battery roundup and also some other battery tips as to what to look for in terms of a good battery and versus a bad battery. And I know that right now a lot of these micro batteries are really hard to find because the micros are getting really hot, and the manufacturers and suppliers can't keep up with the demand for the lipos, because people are buying them up as soon as they come out on the market, and they go out of stock right away. I know, because I've been on the hunt for batteries myself and have been running into that problem continuously. Pretty much from any vendor out there, any of the batteries that I want are ending up out of stock, and that's because all the good batteries that people know about are being bought up, versus if you see stock or you see batteries out there that are in stock and no one's buying them, you should probably question whether or not that's a good battery or not. Anyway, that's a topic for another video, and I'm totally digressing here, so let's just let you know that this battery is good and not having these problems compared to the original reviews with the older battery. So that's that. Now, just to get this out of the way, let's go through the rest of the stuff that comes in the box. You don't get any instructions. You get a couple of these Velcro straps. I don't use those anymore, and I'll show you that to you later. You get these 5-bladed props. You get a set of purple and a set of orange. And then they also throw in these DYS 2030s. I don't know why, because they tend to, well, they don't work, and I'll explain why in a bit. But these are also garbage props. I don't use these, and I don't recommend them. And I did a video on that a day or two ago about this. These are bad props, so don't use them. Get a couple things to Velcro for your battery, some zip ties, and they throw in these bags of screws. I think these are for the motors. Alright, so you get a M2 4 and 7mm. I think 7mm are for the prop mounting, and the 4mm are for the motor mounts to the frame. Okay, so the frame itself is actually pretty substantial and very sturdy. I crashed this quite a bit and did not have any problems. The arms are kind of skinny, and that's good for drag, but they're also really thick, so it shouldn't have any problems with crashes. And we're at about 3mm on the arms, so about 2.8 here, so fairly substantial. And the top plate is about 1.5. And the motors we got on here are Aurora RC branded, but they're rebranded DYS motors. These are very common on a lot of these 2-inch micros. 1104 7500 kV with the T-style prop. A lot of these are coming out with these 5-bladed props now. They're actually 1935 props. They're not quite 2 inches. I'm not sure that you're going to be able to get a 2-inch prop on here, so I did try a few and was getting prop strikes. And I'll show you right here with the stock prop, you're running into an issue right here on this side where the camera is, and if you run any bigger prop here, you're going to hit both the top plate and the camera, because when you do a lot of these power acrobatic moves, the blades, they flex, and as you're spinning, the blade here will then start to run into the level of where the top plate is, and you're going to get some prop strikes, and that will probably cause you to crash, because then weird things start happening. So that's probably why they've redesigned this frame and gone from a 90 millimeter to a 95 millimeter frame. They're actually or I guess not redoing it, but they're coming with a version 2 of this. It's called the ARFUN 95, of course, but it's essentially the same frame with the skinny arms, but they've moved the motors out a little bit so that you'll be able to take in 2-inch props without this issue with the camera striking, or the prop striking the camera, or back here hitting the buzzer or the top plate. So if you're looking at props here, you can use these 1935s. They're okay. I don't particularly like these. They're kind of hard to tune. You get a lot of prop wash and a lot of D-term oscillation with these. I am going to try the King Kong 1935 three-bladed props a little bit later, and I'll probably have a separate video on that. Something I noticed is that I flew this mostly on 2S with the stock battery and some other 2S batteries I had. Pretty good power, so it can handle a bigger battery. I think I flew a 650 and it was fine on 2S. The thing that I noticed that was kind of interesting was that this comes with a JST connector in the back here. The ESCs are 20 amp rated, so this is I believe the same board, same ESC board and flight controller board as the Furby F3 fly tower that I had in my Easy Bake micro drones video a couple weeks ago, maybe a week and a half ago. It's the same exact board and ESCs that was in that video. So this is a pretty common setup here for your power and your flight controller. But this has the JST connector, and of course the one that that comes pre-made also comes with the JST connector. But the point I'm trying to make is that I was trying to fly this on 3S, and it does fly on 3S, by the way, and I have video on that. The motors do get a little bit warmer, so I think that's why I'm going to go to the three-bladed setup for the 3S. But I noticed that the power and the speed wasn't as good as the Lizard, which is on a 1104 6000 kV motor. This is which is actually should be slower than this. This is an 1104 7500 kV motor, so this should be more powerful and faster. But I think the limiting factor here is the JST connector here. So if you want more power, especially if you want to fly this on 3S, I would suggest swapping out the JST connector for an XT30, and that's probably going to be one of my first mods, is taking this apart and swapping out this JST connector so I can fly this on 3S. And then I'm going to try and compare this to the Lizard and see how it flies. So the all-in-one camera that comes on here is the same one that I mentioned earlier, the Furby all-in-one. It does come with 4 lines for your power and also for your video in and video out for your OSD. And it just directly solders onto the board over here on the side. It does come with a whip antenna in this case. And the power is 25 milliwatts. Now, as you can see on the bottom here, it's all flat. All these have recessed screw mountings, and this is actually kind of nice for the battery area. Normally I have to put a lot of foam here to make sure the batteries don't get dented by the screws, but in this case that's not a problem. And I'm going to this sort of mounting option now with the rubber bands going around the arms, and putting on a little piece of foam here just for padding so the batteries don't get dented. And this is how I've been changing all of my mounting. I've been switching off of the Velcro and going to this. Sometimes in a bad crash the batteries do get ejected, but I usually don't fly far away anyway, so finding these is not a big deal. I usually fly in short grass most of the time, but if you're worried about your battery getting ejected, then this is probably not the best solution. This is just good for me because I tend to break the Velcro straps a lot. These break too, but rubber bands don't cost as much, and these are pretty easy to replace as well, and does a pretty good job of securing the battery in my opinion. Let's get a weight measurement, and I think this is going to be around 60 grams, actually a little bit less at 56.37, so not too bad. I think that the frame's actually pretty light in this case. Okay, so I'll go ahead and show you my Betaflight settings for this. I did just do a quick flash to the latest version of Betaflight, and I did a little bit of tuning through the built-in OSD using the Betaflight OSD, which makes tuning really easy. For I think these 5-bladed props, you do have to turn the D gain down a little bit because the stock D-gain setting causes some D-term oscillation, and you can hear it when you're flying around. It just sounds like it's like a whirring sound. When you turn that down, it goes away, and also the vibrations also go away at that point. And it flies really well, at least on the settings that I had. Now, I didn't do as much tuning on 3S, and I think I have to change the props to do that. It still flew pretty well, and I'll show some clips of that as well at the end of the video. Okay, so here look at my Betaflight settings. Nothing particularly unusual going on here. Just serial RX on UR3, running D-Shot 600, and I did set my motor idle to 4%, and got the standard board orientation of 180 degrees for this particular config. I think that's the same for all the other ARFUNs out there. I did switch my receiver to the, I think it's the RX2A, it's the FlySky receiver that can do iBus, and so the receiver that it came with was supposedly a FlySky receiver, but I could not bind it with my i6 radio, so I ended up switching the receiver out. Not a big deal. I think this is the standard setting for the gyro and PID loop. I didn't change that, that's just the default for Betaflight 317. Did turn on air mode, and of course I have my OSD turned on. On the battery voltage, I lowered my min to 3.0 and my warning to 3.1 because I just didn't want the buzzer going off 1 minute into my flight. These are my fail-safe settings, and always make sure you test your fail-safe with the props off. Okay, these are my PID settings. I did lower the D gain and the P gain from the default for Betaflight 317 because of the props. I think that if I use the King Kong props, the tuning is probably going to be different, but these are the PIDs I'm using currently, and they seem to be okay. This is how I have my OSD set up. I just basically have my voltage and my flight time, and I turn everything else off. So that's pretty much it with my settings. I also put a CLI dump link in the description if you guys want it, so leave me a comment if you do. Otherwise I'll just pass on it because I have it's pretty similar to a lot of my other micro builds. And if you guys have any questions about this build, let me know. Probably gonna do a mod video, maybe an XT30 mod and some other things. I'm not exactly sure yet, but if you are interested in seeing mods for the ARFUN 90, let me know in the comments below as well. I'll go ahead and run some flight footage here for you on 2S and 3S just to give you an idea what the speed's like. Let me know if you think that the 3S of this is faster or slower than the Lizard. I think it's a slower, but you know, why don't you guys take a look at it and let me know in the comments. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.